The recording of today's session will be made available on our website. If you're curious about any webinars that have happened in the past or ones that are happening in the future that you're interested in attending but can't do live, if you go to our homepage at chartiq.com and click on the resources page, you'll see all of the webinars, our videos embedded right into the site, easy to watch. You can fast forward to the good parts. I would point out we have 2 webinars coming up. This one over here that says ChartIQ plus BondClick is going to be fantastic, but the day of the week is wrong. It's actually on Monday the 29th, not Thursday the 29th. So just ignore that. If you go to our website and go to the webinar series, you'll see all the correct information there. This one is going to be with Chris White, our partner over at BondClick, who has some really interesting data sets around corporate bonds. And we'll be talking about how to visualize corporate bond data in an interactive session with Chris and our Chief Product Officer, Eugene Sorensen. And then on July 9th, we'll be hosting a joint session with our longtime partners at Trading Central, who provide quantitative analytics that get overlaid into our charts to provide in-workflow analytics, trading signals, and information to traders as they analyze different securities and trading opportunities. For today's webinar, we're going to be focused on 2 things. One is Finsemble 4.3, which is hot off the presses, and so we'll be talking about that. We'll also notably be spending a little bit of time on FDC3, and specifically FDC3 version 1.1, what that standard is and how it's being implemented in Finsemble. And so to that end, we've got myself as a presenter. I'm Dan Schleifer. I'm the co-founder and CEO of the firm. We're also joined today by Sid Dalal. Sid, are you there with me?
I'm here.
Cool. Sid,
Yeah.
why don't I give you just a moment to introduce yourself, and then we'll go ahead and step on with the show.
Sure. I'm Sid. I'm Director of Solutions Engineering, and my team is responsible for customer support for Finsemble. And we're also core contributors to Finsemble, so we can give customers stuff that they need faster. And I was one of the original developers of Finsemble, and I was the last employee to join ChartIQ while it was still at a barn. This is 4.5 years ago. I was laid off from another fintech startup, and the interview that I get had directions that you see on the bottom left of the screen, which is like turn at some hay bales and trash cans, go through dirt roads. And I wasn't sure whether I wanted to take this job. And then I met Dan and Terry, and I just decided to join ChartIQ. And little did I know then that every big financial institution that I could name was going to become a customer of ChartIQ. It's been an exciting 4.5 years, and probably the longest I've been at any job before. So it's been a great ride, and I hope it continues. Thanks, Dan. Back over to you.
Thanks. It's been a pleasure having you, Sid. And Sid is correct. Terry, my co-founder, and I started the business in a barn, and that's where we were for the first number of years. It's the East Coast equivalent of 2 guys in a garage. And so I was the first barn employee, and Sid was actually the last employee that joined at the barn before we moved to proper offices here in downtown Charlottesville, Virginia. Agenda-wise, I'm going to cover just a little bit of background for those that might not know it of what Finsemble is. I promise to do it in no more than 2 minutes. This is not designed to be a product pitch about our product, but you need a little bit of background. I'm also going to talk a little bit about what FDC3 is, because I think people kind of know that there's a standard out there. They know that it's about desktops, interoperability, but I think it's worth going through just a little bit about what the standard is, why it exists, how we're involved. And then I'm going to hand things over to Sid, who will actually get into the heart of the presentation, which is, what does FDC3 look like inside of Finsemble, and specifically in Finsemble 4.3, the new version that's come out. We've also got a really new, exciting set of features around configurable notifications. So you can have centralized notification system inside Finsemble. And then there's some other new goodies inside Finsemble 4.3 that we're going to go ahead and show off. So that quick 2-minute kind of what is Finsemble? We refer to Finsemble as a smart desktop. The alternative being a good old-fashioned dumb desktop. In a smart desktop, everything works together. And so the idea behind Finsemble is that it provides all of the workspace management, interoperability, which we're going to talk about today. The way that we do that is a bit different than everybody else, even though we're all following the same standard. We support both legacy as well as modern, in-house, and third-party applications. So whether it's something being built in Java Swing or .NET with WinForms, or it's being built in React or Angular, all of those things can be pulled into both cohesive workspaces and workflows. And we provide kind of a development platform and the development tools for vendors and institutions themselves to build applications in this new way, to have them interoperate and be part of a smart desktop. So it's not just about the platform that end users see, but all of the development tooling, and critically, the connectivity into enterprise infrastructure. So it's enough, it's great to have all these things talking on the desktop, but when it comes to single sign-on and entitlements and storage persistence and all that kind of stuff, you need to connect to your enterprise infrastructure. Our product is fundamentally broken down into kind of a core platform and then some add-on modules depending on what people are trying to accomplish. Finsemble Workspaces is really the core. So this is all of your HTML5 components. We provide pre-built launchers and UX that's completely themable, sophisticated window management, certainly best in class, best in the industry, completely automated, and Sid will go through this, inter-application, interoperability and workflow, as well as a secure enterprise-grade HTML5 container using a secure Electron adapter. On top of that, we have 3 different packages for people that are trying to do different kinds of things. Flow is really around advanced user experience. So a full development kit for customizing UI, for building custom workflow, for things more advanced, application launchers and application catalogs, being able to customize the user experience based on who the user is, say in their Active Directory system. Next up, we have Finsemble Connect, which is all of that connectivity back to enterprise systems. So being able to import and export workspaces and have those save and persist on your database server, being able to share those in between employees, being able to handle authentication, single sign-on, entitlements, federated search. So you've got a single search box inside Finsemble that searches your CRM system, your research systems, your symbology server, your Elasticsearch, et cetera. As well as critically these days, support for remote desktop environments and desktop as a server, Citrix farms, et cetera. Finally, this one's pretty straightforward. Not all of our customers need to bring native applications into their smart desktop, but a lot of them do. We've got, again, category leading native support for WinForms, for WPF, for Java Swing, as well as an extension for our router, for the messaging router underneath the hood that can let really any application participate in Finsemble. So that's a little bit about what Finsemble is for a little context before Sid's part of the presentation. I then want to jump into another 2 minutes about what is FDC3. So real briefly, FDC3 stands for the Financial Desktop Connectivity and Collaboration Consortium, which is quite the mouthful, which is why you'll always hear it referred to as FDC3. This is basically an open set of standards developed by the financial community for the financial community. And unlike something like Fix, which was about how do order management systems send orders back and forth and trades, this is about how do applications on a desktop interoperate with each other. FDC3 is an open standards group that's run by FinOS, or under the FinOS umbrella, which is the FinTech Open Source Foundation. It includes us. It includes our direct competitors over at OpenFin and Glue482. It also involves the banks and the buy sides. So this is the vendor community, this is the buy sides, this is the sell sides, all participating together in open standards. The last little bit I'll throw in here is that it's important to note that FDC3 is a set of standards. It's not the implementation. And so just like Fix is a standard, but you still need a Fix adapter and you need an order management system to use it, you still need to either build your own smart desktop or license technology from somebody like us. And so, standards are really important. Implementations need to adhere to those standards and hopefully go way above and beyond the standards because the standards only handle very basic functions. And so that's really what, if you evaluate us and our competitors are trying to build something yourself, what you'd be looking at is how does the implementation go above and beyond the standards. So FDC3 is basically made up of 4 different parts. First off is context data. This is a shared language for describing data. So in an old world, you would have thought of these as XML schemas. We can think of this as basically a vocabulary, a way to describe a symbol. Now, funny enough, it's not actually a symbology. So it's not saying RIC codes or ISINs or QSIPs. It's what is the message format to carry that information. Next is intents. These are basically verbs. So if I have a piece of context data and I want to do something with it, I need a verb to describe that. The easy way to think about this is your cell phone. If you're in an email and you see somebody's postal address, your email application will recognize that as a piece of context data, as an address. It'll make it a clickable link. And when you click on it, you'll get an intent resolver, it's called, that basically says, what do you want to do with this address? Do you want to open it in Google Maps or do you want to open it in Apple Maps? And that's your phone expressing an intent. You click on the button or click on the link, that's an intent. Next up is an application directory. This is basically a standard. Again, it's not a universal application directory. This is not an app store run by Finos or a commercial vendor. This is how do you define a database internal to your organization even that has all of your applications and what context they understand, what intents they're capable of, and other kinds of bits of metadata about those applications. You then, as part of your implementation, need a way for your users to access that, right? So there's an API that's defined, but no user interface. So for instance, as an implementation, Finsemble provides a really incredible app store front end that connects to an industry standard app directory. Finally, and this is the new bit in FDC3 1.1, is that there's a standard API. And this is basically a standard interface for developers who want to build FDC3 compliant applications. This is a really core piece of this puzzle and something that didn't exist until 1.1. The reason that this is such a game changer in 1.1 is that even though a vendor might use FDC3 context and intents, they would still have to write to the Finsemble API, the OpenFin API, and the Glue42 API, and proprietary in-house APIs or any other vendors that appear. So vendors basically had to pick a camp. And if they wanted independence, they didn't just want to write to Finsemble or OpenFin. They had to basically write to each of them. Now vendors can build to a single standard set of APIs and not have to worry about, do more of my customers use Finsemble than OpenFin or Glue42 than OpenFin or whatever the case may be. They can write to a single API and not have to worry about which desktop platform their clients that they want to distribute to are using. The other crucial thing, if you're an end user firm, so you're the buy side or the sell side that has a bunch of trading floors with desktop computers, is that historically you were locked into a vendor. If you went with one of the desktop platforms, you were kind of stuck with them and stuck with the applications that were designed to write to them. That's not just vendor applications, because over time your in-house app developers would write to those APIs, and then suddenly you're kind of stuck and locked into the vendor because it would take so much time and effort to rewrite everything to use a different API. So now, if you're a buy-side firm or a sell-side firm, you can pick which interop vendor you want to use and switch later on. So you've got independence, which honestly is what standards are about, and what the smart desktop is supposed to be about is open interoperability. And if you're locked into an interop vendor, that doesn't do you any good. So you can pick whoever you think has the best technology, who has the best service, et cetera. And then if that changes 2-3 years down the road, you can make the switch. So last bit, as a vendor, what's our position on these open standards? We think it's great. A rising tide lifts all boats. We're happy to be and proud to be one of the founding members of FDC3. We're active, we're committed. I believe as of today, we're the first vendor that's rolling out an FDC3 1.1 implementation. I might be proven wrong there, which would be fine, because again, we want everybody to implement the standard. We also recognize that FDC3 has limitations. It only covers very basic workflow. And our customers are doing much more advanced stuff with Finsemble than the FDC3 specification calls for. And honestly, we've been doing most of the stuff that FDC3 1.1 does, we were doing 2 years ago. But that's okay. As a vendor, we're always going to innovate and stay ahead of the curve and make sure that we participate in the standards, that we're helping to shape the standards. And as the standards get ratified, we update our technology to adhere to the standards so that our customers don't need to worry about that. So we're always going to be out innovating ahead of the standard and bring those real world use cases back in. Key takeaways, right? You don't have to write for every platform to get distribution. If you build an app, you're a vendor and you want to distribute to the buy side, you don't have to build to just me or just one of my competitors. You can build once. And if you're a buy side or a sell side, you're not locked into a vendor either. You can pick the best technology for you today. With that, I am going to do my best to hand the baton and stop sharing and make Sid the presenter so that he can show you what all of this stuff actually looks like. There we go. While he's getting set up over there, just a reminder, there is a Q&A panel, and we intend to have some time at the end of today's call for Q&A. So if you have questions, you can submit those at any time, and we will get to all of them at the very end.
Thanks, Dan. Yeah, I'm excited with Finsemble 4.3. We support the FDC3 1.1 API. With Finsemble 4.0, we started supporting app directory, and now with 4.3, we support the FDC3 1.1 API. And it's exciting to see that now we can do a lot of stuff that you could do with Finsemble's API with FDC3. And I'll start with walking through a few sort of use cases of what the interoperability is provided by FDC3 and with Finsemble. So I classify that into 3 different categories. The first one is automatic. And then the next one is semi-automatic, which is sort of user-driven, but still automatic. And the last one is fully manual, where the user specifies everything. Like that's basically what the intents are that Dan was talking about, where the user clicks on something and then causes an action to happen and things like that. So let's start with automatic. So in this case, this is the stuff that happens by magic under the hood. So components already know with whom they want to communicate and what they want to say. And this is for components that talk to their own services or the external applications, or components built by the same vendor that talk to each other and know what to exchange. They don't need any sort of user interaction. And this kind of lets the magic inside Finsemble happen for interoperability. Previously, you could use the Finsemble router APIs to do this. We had 2 different router APIs which would help you do this. And now with the FDC3 standard, you could use the FDC3 channels API to do this. And we'll see a demo soon. The next one is a user-driven automatic interaction, where the user chooses what components talk to each other. It's still automatic, like the components talk to each other automatically, but the user is selecting which components talk to each other. So if you see in the bottom right corner, there's these 2 components which are linked on a channel. And now the user selected that these components must talk to each other. And that's when they start talking to each other. Previously, you would use the Finsemble linker API to make this happen. And then what you're seeing is the Finsemble linker UI on the bottom right. And now you can use the FDC3 desktop agent API, which also has channels in it, to make this exact same thing happen. And the last one is manual interaction. And this is where you click on a contact, which will show you a dialog, which asks you whether you want to call them or you want to message them. Another example is drag and drop. And FDC3 desktop agent provides intents and context API to make this happen, where you click on something and you can pop up an intent resolver, which will ask the user what they want to do. In Finsemble, we had an API called Open Shared Data that would make it happen. And drag and drop is another example of manual interaction. And our plan in the future is to make drag and drop also work with standard APIs. And we're working with FDC3 right now to make sure that the API under the hood provides the ability to make these things happen. So when you get FDC3 in Finsemble 4.3, what do you get? So it's available right now. You can download it. And what we give you is a service that's built in Finsemble that implements the APIs. And the service comes with a client that you can call from any of your components. And we come with a customizable UI component for intent resolution, which was a screenshot that you saw on the previous slide. and a test component to test out the FDC3 APIs. We also give you a sample service that communicates via FDC3 with applications external to Finsemble. And we actually have customers trying this out right now. And so how does FDC3 currently work inside Finsemble? So currently FDC3 sits on top of existing Finsemble APIs, and the FDC3 channels and their linker channels all work together. So the FDC3 channels implementation in Finsemble sits on top of the linker API, and it's all unified. So you can use either API right now and it will have the same effect. So you can easily transition from using our linker API to the FDC3 API transparently under the hood. The only thing is that currently FDC3 allows you to only join a single channel. So if you use FDC3 in Finsemble, the linker will be restricted to a single channel. Here's FDC3 working in Finsemble. You see that's a component in Finsemble. I'm going to open up a developer console just to show you that this is FDC3. I mean, you could do all this stuff previously in Finsemble. So now we'll actually use the FDC3 APIs. I zoomed in so we can see what's going on. And here, let's raise an intent to view a chart for Apple. And there we go, our intent resolver. It says, hey, we have these 4 components that can handle this. Which one do you want to choose? Let's choose our advanced chart for it. And there we have a chart with the symbol Apple, which we chose. Now let's try opening this, doing this exact same thing with a different symbol. Let's try Google instead. And now it shows you that you have one component open, and it gives you the option of either using the existing component or opening up a new component to deal with it. So let's open up another one. And now let's do this a third time, and let's choose Tesla instead. This time we'll use one of our existing components to open it up. And you see that it brought the existing component that resolved the intent forward. And the other one went back. But now so that's the intent API in Finsemble. Let's clear this out and let's try the channels API. So we'll make a component join a channel using our linker. And it does join the FDC3 channel. But let's do the same thing using the FDC3 API and make it join another channel. This time we'll join channel 2. Now let's check that our linker also changed channels. It did. Now we'll make one of the charts join the same channel. And now we'll use the desktop agent broadcast API to broadcast an instrument to the chart. There we go. Let's send ABC, and there it went to the chart. So that's basically FDC3 working in Finsemble. Parts of this. So parts of the demo that you saw sat on the FDC3 API, but some of the stuff was an extension to the API. So if you looked at the intent resolution where you could select between an existing component or a new component, those are Finsemble add-ons to the API. And we are actively working in the FDC3 working groups to improve the standard, add more stuff to it, more flexibility, and get it closer to the functionality that Finsemble provides. And we'll also plan to add FDC support to native app support in Finsemble. Dan mentioned that we support Java, .NET, both. We'll see some more about that later in this presentation. But yeah, that's our plan, to add FDC3 to native applications and help move the standard forward so we can do more of Finsemble in a standard way. So after FDC3, the other big thing that we introduced along with 4.3 is notifications done the Finsemble way. We've worked with several customers to gather requirements on what notifications on a desktop should be like and how they should work. And this is our first version based on that. And we're actively working with more customers to collect more requirements, but it's already in a really fantastic state. This has been one of our team's most exciting projects. We give you a simple API, multiple actions per notification, timed recurring notifications. You can subscribe to notifications from any Finsemble component. We even have native support for notifications already. You have persistent notifications. So if you restart Finsemble or restart your system, your notifications are not lost, they stay. And the biggest feature is multi-monitor support. I was super excited when I saw this, and it is just great. I mean, seeing it working is fantastic. What you get with our notifications, Finsemble Notification Center, is that you get this little thing, which is the toaster, which we'll see in the demo. But the one in the middle is our notification toasts that pop up just like regular notifications. And the thing on the right is our notifications drawer. So you get these three inbuilt in Finsemble already. I mean, you get the full UI and it's completely customizable. It's built in React. And we also give you a test component to test notifications. So here's notifications in action. Looks like PowerPoint says it won't play the video. Let me see if I can.
This is always the danger is if you do a live demo, your internet connection will go down. If you do a recorded demo, PowerPoint will break.
Yeah, so the PowerPoint broke for me in the morning. I fixed this. I had to install new stuff. It broke again. I actually have a live demo running in the background just in case, but here, if we can play. So here's, let's see. Yeah, that's the notifications toaster. We'll move it up so you can see it. That's our notifications drawer. We don't have any notifications yet. And that's the notification center. Also, you have access to the full source code of the notification center. You can see subscriptions to notifications and how they work from the notification center. And that's our notification test component. And I just sent out 2 notifications down at the bottom. And I'll let you know something about these notifications. It's actually a single window, which is transparent and click-through. And we added support for single transparent click-through windows in Finsemble. And that's the notification drawer. And you can see in the toaster that we have 2 notifications. And we have a bunch of inbuilt actions that you can use directly, or you can create custom actions and use them with Finsemble. And you see the notification center got the subscription to both these notifications. And now I'm going to move my toaster to my other monitor, which you can't see. And I'm going to send notifications again. And you can't see them because they popped up on the other monitor. So that's multi-monitor. So if you're using a lot of monitors, let me pause. Then you can move notifications to whatever monitor you want to move them, whatever monitor you want to see them on. And if you see here that like I sent 2 notifications, but you only see 1 because you have the ability to send the same notification multiple times and get it updated if it has the same ID. That was one of the features that our customers really wanted. So that's notifications in Finsemble currently. And along with notifications, yes, notifications is available right now. And we are continuously improving it. A lot of exciting stuff is coming up in notifications, and hopefully we'll show it to you in the near future. But I have a lot of other stuff to show you in what's new in 4.3. And
I'm going to jump in on you, Sid. I'm sorry to do this to break up your flow, but I just wanted to point out, you touched on this, but I think it's just crucial to reinforce it. The cool thing about notifications here is not just that it's an awesome user experience, and at Finsemble, that's kind of what we're known for, is delivering a customizable out-of-the-box UX, but these persist across reboots, and the notification center that he was showing spins off an audit trail of what notifications were issued and what happened to them. And so being able to tie into that means that not only can all of your developers of all your apps send notifications to the user in one way, but you can also reference that audit trail or feed it off to your own kind of logging systems to know what happened, what the user did. And so when you think about workflow that's being driven by notifications, being able to have that audit trail is really critical. And so it's not just a user experience for notifications. It's not just kind of a very rudimentary, desktop component. It's designed to have those kinds of enterprise, features to it. And so I think it's really important in notifications.
Yeah. That's a good point. That's a good point you bring. That's a good point you bring up, because not only all of that, but if you are building workflows with notifications, you could using multiple actions per notification is great. So when you can subscribe to when a user does specific actions on a notification, so you can actually drive workflows by users performing different actions on notifications in a sequence and subscribing to those actions from other places. I mean, it is like, yeah, the notification center, as I said, is fantastic. It is one of our most exciting features in 4.3. And I'm about to show you what's new since 4.0. There's a lot of exciting stuff, and I still feel notifications is one of the big ones. So we updated to the latest Electron. Actually just released 4.3.1, which updated to 9.04, which is even later than Electron 9. And I mentioned native window.open support. I specifically called that out because a lot of our customers use window.open in different ways. Like some of them use these old Java web apps, which require window.open. And now in the modern world, we've come sort of full circle with React portals using window.open. So we really need to support it well in Finsemble, and 4.3 introduces proper window.open support. One thing we introduced since 4.0 is protocol handler support in Finsemble. So you can click on something in an external application, like here, clicking on something in Slack is opening up a chart inside Finsemble. We added more Java examples, and between 4.0 and 4.3, we added WinForm support. And with 4.4, we're adding more complete WinForm support with a lot more API support than we have now. And here you see a Java example, a WPF, WinForms, and a web app all working together inside Finsemble, being docked and moving around together. We added Blumberg integration. On the top left, you see a Finsemble component, and you can see it interacts with Blumberg using Terminal Connect. We added more TypeScript support. So now we have types for Finsemble included with the seed. We updated the latest TypeScript, and you can create custom services and components in TypeScript. In fact, both our FDC3 and our notification service were built with TypeScript. And that's it. And if we have any questions, we'll take them now.
So as Sid indicated, if you have any questions, go ahead and pop those into the Q&A panel. We'll try to address everything. We'll try to address everything here. We've got one question about notifications, or more generally about competition. It says competitors have almost identical target features and capabilities. I would remind everybody that a checkbox isn't always a checkbox, but that's okay. Will Finsemble apps interop seamlessly with, say, Glue42 and OpenFin apps, e.g. for notifications? What will and won't work? It's a great question. So I'll pick on notifications, and Sid was just showing that off. I would argue that our notifications goes well above and beyond what OpenFin does, and for instance, doesn't require you to have an OpenFin ID and all these kind of proprietary things for some of their capabilities. Notifications are not part of a standard spec right now. And so notifications are something that are proprietary currently to all three platforms. I have to admit, I'm not that familiar with Glue42's, and last I checked, their documentation and downloadable samples weren't available to kind of download and play with. With FDC3 1.1 and FDC3 as a whole, as it evolves, the goal is for more and more of these things to be hot swappable. So that, if you're a vendor and you want to push out a notification, that becomes part of the standard, and you don't need to worry about which platform you're doing it on. Now, again, are notifications going to continue to be, have a better user experience, to have more flexibility, to have more backend, support for persistence, and audit trails and all those kinds of things than, say, a competitor? Sure, but as a vendor, you don't want to have to say, I need to push out a notification in 3 ways. And so that's where all 3 vendors, or the 3 core vendors in the space, participate in these standards. And certainly we continue to support that. We want to, we win on evaluations. We don't want it to be a matter of, well, I've already invested time and effort into this other thing, or proprietary APIs. We're big fans of open standards, and we stand by ours being the best implementation. Next question that came up is FDC3 definitions for context, data, and intent. Do you see that changing soon? I mean, our definitions are limited at the moment. I'll throw in my 2 cents and I'll let Sid throw in as well. The definitions are very limited. And I don't remember the exact timeline, but FDC3 has been around for a couple of years now. And standards move really slowly. I touched on in my part of the presentation, which is that the things that FDC3 does, and in fact, even having a standard schema for these kinds of things, are things that we already did, frankly, before FDC3 existed. And we'll always, vendors will undoubtedly be ahead of the standards. If you look at the very early days of fixed protocol, it was quite rudimentary too. What I would say is, these things evolve faster the more people are using them. They are having to write past them because they see the limitations, and they participate in the standards body. And so one of the things that we've been doing as a vendor is starting to coordinate roundtable discussions with our clients that are using our implementation of FDC3 to open up discussions about what's working for them and what's not, and being able to take a lot of that and feed it back into the FDC3 working groups. So that is, part of our responsibility as a vendor, but your needs and frankly, our implementation is always going to be a couple clicks ahead of the standard.
Yeah, and I'll add to what Dan is saying. So the definitions are currently limited right now, but they're really open-ended. And also we are working with our existing customers to make sure that whatever definitions are required for things to function do get added to FDC3 at some point. Okay, so the next release of FDC3 we expect is about 6 months away. So we have ample opportunity right now to direct the group in a way to include whatever is required.
I would, Rob Underwood from Finos is on the call. Hi, Rob. And he said you might want to mention that people feel like FDC3 is limited or slow. You can roll up your sleeves and participate. And I agree. And that's what I was trying to say there is that as a vendor, we want to participate. We've gotten more and more active recently. We're helping to funnel the requirements from our customers because we see a lot in the implementations we're doing. We're doing buy-side implementations and sell-side implementations and vendor implementations and a lot of third-party integrations. So we're able to help, some of our customers participate directly on the calls, and some of them participate by working collaboratively with us and our product managers, and we funnel that through. These things get better by more people using them day to day, more people participating in the process, and more people writing applications that adhere to the standards. Any other questions or comments from the group? Sid, I'll throw out there, since we're talking about the extension of the standard, what's the thing that you're most excited? I was excited to see the standard API because that was, in my opinion, that was the big game changer in 1.1. What are you looking forward to in the next version of the standard? What's being talked about?
The next, so there are a few things that I'm excited about that Finsemble does. The first thing is we need to, like, our Finsemble drag and drop, is kind of magical, like compared to drag and drop anywhere else. You drag something and you automatically know who can accept all that stuff. And under the hood, it is powered by something like FDC3's context. And what would be exciting is if we can suggest enough to get there. The second thing that you saw in our demo is that we allow you to choose between already open applications and try opening a new one. Currently, that is hard to do within the spec. And the last thing that I would be excited about is if you saw the API, when I clicked view chart, it gave me stuff that wasn't related to chart. So that's sort of beyond the spec right now, because the spec only allows you to choose a single intent per action, and it would be really nice for us to have something which is a little more flexible, which allows the user to select intent at runtime. So there's several small things, but when we put all of those together and get that to work, that would be really great. If that worked cross application, it would be fantastic.
Yeah, I think one of the things I would throw out there that I'm looking forward to driving, right? We saw, for instance, our notification system and talking about that as kind of a hub of workflow and being able to centralize that, those customizable, actions, persistent notifications, being able to have multiple actions, to be able to initiate multiple clicks and multiple actions on a single notification, not being one and done. And I think that starts to represent what becomes interesting about real workflows is that they're multi-step. and you need to be able to basically follow them along the way. And I'm not the technologist on the call, that's obviously Sid, but when we think about, you know, a single database query versus what are they called, transactions, when you have a multi-step. Yeah. So those are the things where, again, whether or not that emerges in the standard, that's stuff that we're doing with some of our customers is workflow engine work around multi-step, persistent, long-running workflows that aren't just a single step, making sure there's an audit trail that you can rewind things. So if you're interested in those kinds of things, reach out to us. Our solutions engineers love to geek out on this stuff, and we can't all circle around the whiteboard anymore with our clients, but we can do it virtually, and we love that kind of collaboration. On that note, I think we're out of questions. Sid, thank you so much. Awesome demos.
Sure, yeah.
Cool stuff.
Yeah, it's fun, and I'm so excited about the stuff that we have in the pipeline that I can't talk about. Hopefully, we'll do more of these.
If you're on the call and you want to learn more, you want to see, for instance, we didn't even touch on, I think Sid briefly touched on application directory, and we've got an incredible kind of front-end implementation of that. The spec is really about the back end of the API. If you want to see any of this stuff, you want to talk about the future of the standard, you want to talk about what's possible in Finsemble today, or how we stack up against our competitors, give us a shout and reach out. We're always happy to chat. On that note, be on the lookout for an email following up on this with a link to the recording, and hope to see you at future webinars. Thanks, guys. Thanks, Sid.
Yeah, thank you.